What's a hobby that's dying in popularity? Ham radio. I remember as a kid listening to my dad's radio and him always having a good time and genuinely enjoying a good rag chew. I got my license and tuned into some of the local repeaters. Found some nets with the most depressing things I've ever heard. People talking about their terminal illnesses or how prescription costs are killing them. Ham radio is in an interesting place right now, because the people most interested in it are getting quite old on average. However, software-defined radio is incredibly cheap and opens up whole new avenues for radio. I can listen to whole GHZs of the radio spectrum with this $25 USB TV tuner, which is really enjoyable. Web link. Stamp collecting. It used to be a huge thing but not anymore. Probably because of the rise of email / very few people send letters anymore. They have them at estate sales all the time for super cheap. I have my grandfather's collection, and don't have any strong feelings for them. Been trying to find a collector for a few years to give them to. No one wants them around me. I'm in the exact same boat, got about 20 huge books filled with them, but haven't been able to find anyone to sell them to because it's not common anymore. Man, I wish I could take them off your hands. I love stamps and I have a small collection. I stopped collecting since I started college because buying stamps can get expensive. I hope you'll find a collector one day who will value those stamps. Model rocketry. When I was a kid, we all built and glued and fired off model rockets with rocket engines and stuff. This comment made the smell of those rockets come right back to me and now makes me want to get back into it. I loved those as a kid. Postcard collecting. I buy a postcard of each place I visit. Some places I have visited in the world, very hard to find a postcard. Hardest country, as we're only here for a day on a cruise, Dominica. I'm surprised this hasn't come up, but China / crystal collections. Another one would be sterling silver, tea sets, cutlery, etc. I think entertaining and hosting isn't as formal as it used to be, and people have less space for dishes. We put one set of china on our wedding registry, but didn't bother with crystal or silver. Those things are beautiful, but they're just not practical for me or as necessary as they used to be. Slot cars. In the UK it is 100% croquet. I know, what a cliché. When I was younger everyone had a croquet set and it was a great way to enjoy time with friends on a summer day in the garden, whereas now I don't know anyone that still owns one. Maybe a strange one, but this question got me thinking. My friends and I played it some in high school, probably started because we were bored one day and found the set in my friend's garage. We are in our 30s now and still play a good amount. Model trains. There is a store in our town square that has been there for like 50 years that specializes in model trains. It's called the Train and Toy Store, but there are almost no toys there. The store is interesting to walk around in, if you are not claustrophobic, but he must not sell very much because he can't pay the rent anymore. He is closing and moving out of town to some building he owns. Again, the stuff looks cool, but I have never seen anyone buy anything. Yes, these types of stores are closing like crazy in my area. I've had a few model train shops close up within the last year. Also, people are buying this stuff online now, so there is no need for these stores, if this is what people want to buy. So this sounds like more of a death of brick and mortar retail than an hobby itself. I'm not a model train enthusiast, but I took my son to a toy / model train expo in 2019 and it seemed very alive and well as a hobby. That's just my experience though. Geocaching. Which is weird because I still do it sometimes while biking around. But caching apps rarely alert me of any finders in the apps now. I put $20 in, what used to be a super popular cache that people would visit daily like 15 years ago. I later turned, about 6 months later, and the same items including the $20 were in there. Have people just forgotten about geocaching, or is there any other reason you can think of that it is dying? I went with my kids a month ago after years away, and sure enough the multi-cache we tried has some of the waypoints missing. And the final cache. Ugh. I think a major reason is that the main platform, geocaching.com, started requiring payment for all but the most basic caches. I think this happened sometime in the early/mid 2010s. Pure money grab that is killing the hobby. I remember when I first started geocaching, I was amazed at all the caches I could go find right away. Nowadays a newbie would be put off by having to pay for possibly the only caches near them. Edit. I'm glad, and disappointed, that my sentiment is shared amongst many here. I too quit geocaching for this reason. Suggestions for creating a new, free, platform are a good idea, though I'd bet that they are out there. As a web developer myself, it's tempting to spin something up. I downloaded the app because I wanted to try, but then saw that most of them were locked behind a paywall and deleted the app. Pen pals. As a teenager, I loved writing letters to new people and receiving letters from all over the country and the world. Everything is instant now, but nothing beats that feeling of getting a letter in the mail that is specifically for you, that is not a bill, ad circular, and comes from someone that genuinely wants to brighten your day. I have a pen pal who lives in Norway. She is actually German, and we started writing back around 2003-ish. The German post office had a pen pal program and would send you an address in the hopes that you would hit it off and write to each other. Well, we still write to each other a few times a year, and I've gone to Europe, from the US, to meet her twice. Once to Germany and once to Norway, where she lives now with her partner and kids. We also are friends on Facebook and Instagram, too, so we do communicate that way, but we both think it's fun to send and receive letters. Edit. Thanks, friends, for the awards. My first ever. And this is now my most upvoted comment. Tongue. If you're curious how this came about, I received a piece of junk mail from Deutsche Post that I almost threw out. It basically said, "Hey, want a German pen pal? Fill out this form and send it back, and we'll connect you with someone." So, I filled out a little survey about myself, what my interests were, whether I wanted to communicate in German or English. They sent me a couple of addresses, and one person I wrote to for a few months, and the other I am still friends with, the person above. Historical reenacting. Folks no longer want to play dress up in itchy wool and educate folks on whatever period was their jam. Its heyday was late 90s, when you could find a group that did just about any period you could imagine. Coercion beanie babies. Non-consensual beanie babies. Buy or die mother effer. Little old lady with glasses behind the counter of a toy store. I meant collecting. I liked coercion better. Collecting all 50 US state minted quarters. I remember there used to be TV commercials selling you fancy cardboard with holes in them to help you collect them all, laughing out loud. Oh, how times have changed. Yo. I had all 50 collected at one point, then my druggie aunt stole them. Did it again, then another druggie family member stole it. Did it one last time, my mom put it away for safekeeping, then when we couldn't find it we assumed someone took them. All that for $12.50 in quarters. Building model airplanes. Model airplane buying, on the other hand, is alive and well. I mean, yeah, we've all got 300 plus kits in the attic, 15 in some stage of construction and 2 we're actually working on, but goddammit Clear Prop has a new Sea Sprite and I've been looking for it, so I just ordered 3 from Hannets. I've come to the conclusion that buying kits and actually making them are 2 completely separate hobbies. Wingsuit flying used to be really popular, but then many of them died and it quickly fell out of popularity. Slamming face first into a bridge at 90 miles per hour will really sour future people on trying, regardless of how cool the videos look. It took off and then crashed. General aviation / being a private pilot. A series of lawsuits against plane manufacturers combined with insane certification requirements for airplanes and parts have made it so that buying new planes or replacement parts is ludicrously expensive for pretty much anyone earning less than $500,000 per year. Old used aircraft from the heyday of the 60s 80s had been filling the void to an extent over the years, but they are starting to get really worn out and people feel less and less comfortable flying them as time goes on. And unfortunately there's just no replacements as they age out. As an example, a brand new Cessna 172 in 1969 cost $12,500, about $90,000 in today's money. Today, a 2021 model would cost around $400,000. My dad and his friend built a plane from a kit together. It was about Cessna size. I googled the price. Says the kits are like $50K. Indoor roller skating rinks. Edit. Skating has become popular, yes, but weirdly the number of roller skating rinks seems to be going down. The 4 within 25 miles of me closed down over the last 15 years. I don't know of any new ones and I'm not sure where to go in New England to find an operating rink nowadays. Meanwhile, there's lots of private outdoor groups. It must just be too expensive to have the square footage to support a roller skating rink in an urban area. Flying radio-controlled helicopters and airplanes. Why would someone want to deal with all the hassle of flying a model helicopter that is insanely difficult to fly, when they can buy a DJI drone that has a first-person video stream, records video in 4K, and can fly around by itself via GPS? Yo-yo. Bridge. Super complex game, has layers and layers of rules, and it's dead. Drag racing, the vehicle kind. A major track in Georgia just got sold because of a local battery plant is being built nearby and the surrounding houses skyrocketed in value. Edit. Since there was confusion, the plant apparently has 50K jobs, so all local residential areas spiked for families moving here for the job as it's only a few minutes drive but far enough away that it isn't an eyesight either. Tatting lace. Paintball. Paintball has always had its ups and downs. While it does have a variable initial cost, the constant need for paint is where the real money sink is. It is not a poor man's sport for sure. My team has a small sponsorship from a major paint manufacturer. Our contact even says he has no problem if we use other manufacturers' markers, hoppers, etc. The paint is where the real money comes from. Not sure if it was a real hobby, but typewriting will die out eventually. The last typewriter's factory closed some years ago. Years ago I was in IT, and we had this guy about 80 years old who would go office door to office door and ask each person if their typewriter needed service or repair. He had his cart with spare parts and ink reels and tools and nothing to repair. It was incredibly sad to see the disappointments once or twice a month when telling him no. There were maybe 5 typewriters across 20 floors and several thousand people. The company owner didn't have the heart to let him go. Owner died and his son immediately sold the company and many were laid off, including typewriter guy. That year for Christmas while the sale was being completed the son gave out copies of his book instead of bonuses. It was 90 pages, double-spaced and large font. The Rotary Club, the Elks, the Masons, the League of Women Voters. All kinds of fraternal organizations. Beyond that, participation in all kinds of civic organizations, churches, labor unions, sports leagues, hobbyist clubs are way down from previous generations. Americans used to be world-renowned for their enthusiastic participation in clubs and civic organizations of all kinds. Now we're becoming an increasingly atomized society. The cost is that today the average American has fewer closer friends, is less likely to know their neighbors, and has less of an informal support network than at any point in history. Model trains. The hobby is absolutely dead. Entire train collections are being sold for literal pennies on the dollar. An engine that used to cost $500 may not even sell for $5. Not strictly dying but certainly becoming a bit more difficult. CD collecting. Right now CDs are in this weird purgatory where we can't decide if we're done with them or not. They've fallen out of favor in terms of practical usage. Most people use streaming services and many new cars don't come with a CD player as standard. They're not totally obsolete, but they're nowhere near as popular as they once were. Many chain stores that specialize in entertainment products have also begun to scale back their stock both in store and online. Go to a CD section and browse popular, and for most artists they'll stock a generic greatest hits collection, their latest release, and if you're really lucky, maybe some of their popular albums. Case in point, I wanted to add Rio by Duran Duran to my collection. It's one of the greatest albums of the 80s, yet literally no chain stores in my area stocked it. You'd think that would be one that's in wide circulation, but apparently not. The other annoying thing is they're not old enough to have garnered niche value yet. Vinyl is the new collector's trend. So there are loads of market stalls popping up selling vinyl as the in thing, but CD stalls at markets are dying. Which is a shame, cause they were the guys to go to if you wanted to find rare albums. Based on young people I know, bowling, billiards and poker are fading. Board games was experiencing a boom until COVID. D&D is super popular again. Board games are doing just fine. They might not have been as visible since people haven't been able to play out in public the past year, but people have been doing virtual versions of the games or secret in-person games throughout the past year. The Kickstarter scene for board games never stopped, and now that in-person events are coming into fruition again, everyone is excited to bring out all the new games they haven't gotten to play the past year. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.